All right, let's do this. Rumble in or rumble out. It is what it is. Time to go. I got too much to say. Oh, and if you didn't know that was Skyrim, there's something wrong with you. If you thought there was something wrong with Skyrim, there's something wrong with you, or you've never played Skyrim. Well, guys. There's no use not showing you this now. I might as well. So we'll just put it out there. We got a lot to do, but Florida will be out soon. And I'm going to show you the raw results after we, went through voter validation and purged the crap, it is what it is. I'm going to go ahead after stressing about it like I usually do when I think I see something that is off a little bit, but it's not, I'm just going to trust the data and it is what it is. And, I bet you anything a week from now, 2 weeks from now, maybe the next time somebody polls Florida, they're going to find something very similar. So instead of questioning it, and instead of, I don't put my thumb on the scale. I don't like it. I know other pollsters, we all have differences of opinions, but Florida has gotten a lot more Republican. And it's like, as I'm stressing about this, one of it, I'm just going to tell you, is Trump's share of the black vote. I looked at 2020 and the percentage of Republicans the percentage of black voters who told us they identified as Republican in Florida was less than 10%. Trump's share of the black vote was 12%. Just as I'm looking at it, because roughly 2 in 10 now black voters say in Florida that they're Republicans. And Trump is not only winning those people, he's winning those people plus some independents. The only thing I could possibly find is that black voters are a little bit young in this sample, but we're not talking about a small sample here. We spoke to about 300 and something adults, black African-American adults, black adults, and plus 200, more than 200 actual, validated registered voters. And we're not talking about a tiny number of people. It is what it is. And ironically, it's that, I hate it when people do that. Ironically, it's when people are asked about generic Republican, even the Senate race, it looks like an improved but normal number for Republicans, especially for a state like Florida. And as I'm going over it, ABC News, home of George Stephanopoulos himself, puts up a Gallup poll on the Sunday show, basically showing the non-white vote shift away from Democrats. And there it is, nationally. In 2021, only about 10% of black adults told Gallup they were Republican. They identified as Republican. Now it's about 20%, 19% to be specific. So that's not that far off. And you would expect Florida to be more Republican than the nation overall. So it is what it is. And we're going to go over it and we'll show it to you. But of course, we got a mini Super Tuesday. Lot to talk about. If you like the videos, don't forget to like them and share them far and wide. Subscribe. Rumble, YouTube. But the best place, of course, to follow us is on Locals. People's Pundit.locals.com. Sign up today. Soon we're going to make comments. I got word that I had seen it myself, like briefly. It was Friday, maybe. Of people like, going in the comment section and like asking for money and stuff like that. There's always a bunch of crap we have to block and spam we have to block. At some point on YouTube, I'm going to make comments only available to members. All right. I don't have, it's like trying to police this stuff, but it's also very cheap, so I don't know when I'm going to do it, but probably pretty soon because I'm tired of you guys know, you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. All right. So, I'll figure it out. I don't know yet. I just want to give you a bit of a heads up. But what else? All right, yeah. Moving into tomorrow, which is a mini Super Tuesday. Trump and Biden are both set to clinch their nominations. It looked like after Trump specifically did better on Super Tuesday, the main Super Tuesday, his vote shares from, I mean, it just wasn't the South, or, he did better in a lot of these other contests and got more of the delegates than people anticipated, or even we had projected that he would get. You have the Trump kind of like best case scenario, the Haley best case scenario. Only in Vermont did anywhere near her best case scenario come to fruition, and it barely did. Everywhere, and we know why. She had the governor's endorsement. She had tons of Democrats voting for her. Burlington definitely played with their vote. Get out of here. Let's not. We didn't fall off the turnip truck yesterday. Okay, we're not playing that game. But everywhere else, she got slaughtered. And in some states where we expected her to get at least a handful of delegates, she did much poorer, and that's why she's out of the race now. So come tomorrow, there's no reason to believe Trump won't outperform exactly what we expected before, and he'll get the lion's share of most of these delegates. We'll go through them actually one by one right now. I will just say this: it is technically possible for the challenger to secure or clinch their nomination before the incumbent sitting president. That is significant, considering that, Rich, there's blah, blah, the Republicans are mostly winner take all. Not in the beginning, they're not, okay? And secondly, the incumbent didn't have any real funded, significant opposition. He should have ran the table, uncommitted, should not have delegates the way they have. They screwed themselves in New Hampshire, so that's part of it. But New Hampshire does not have a slew, a whole ton of delegates. Democratic nominations are won by winning non-white votes in the Midwest and the South. Generally, you got to do good in the beginning states, unless you're Joe Biden and Barack Obama, makes a phone call to get you the nomination. That's different. But that's where the delegates are, which is why it was so hard for Bernie Sanders to beat Hillary Clinton. And it was, by the way, hard once Barack Obama made that phone call for Bernie Sanders to beat even Joe Biden, who got creamed in the first four states. But that's where those delegates are. So it is somewhat significant that it is possible at this point that the challenger will clinch their nomination before the incumbent president will. And that is astonishing, considering the challenger did have funded opposition. The challenger did have proportional allocation in the beginning. And the contest went longer. The contest went longer for the challenger. And again, uncontested has delegates here. It's a little bit obviously concerning that Joe Biden lost something like American Samoa. This is not the sign of a strong incumbent. It's not. I'm sorry. It's not. We could address one day, and we will, because I've been an advocate of the primary model. The problem is the primary model failed in 2020. It failed miserably. Joe Biden, like I just mentioned, was never able to pick up delegates in the first few contests the way most winners do, and the way you have to show strength in the primary model. It failed miserably. Trump was supposed to win 300 plus electoral votes. There's some updating I truly believe the primary model needs. He's not going to do that, so he's going to look I think he'll fall further and further behind as the world changes and things change. You have to revise at some point. And it doesn't look like he's going to. But let's look at what we got here. Here's the Republican map. Georgia is a big delegate haul of the night. For those who don't know what's up tomorrow night, coverage will start, I think, around 8, or it'll be around 6, be around 7 or 8 Eastern Standard Time. Okay. But what we're basically looking at is the end, the official end, even though Trump's taken control of the RNC, the official end of the primary on the Republican side. Georgia is the biggest delegate haul. Only behind Georgia is Missouri. They're both winner take most, but let's see how we expect this to go in the state of Georgia. Give the primary rules. It is an open contest, which is not as, and so is Missouri, by the way. Most of them are, except for Hawaii, which is a closed contest, and Washington, which is semi-closed, also 43 delegates. I think it would have been a real problem for Nikki Haley to do anything in a state like that, considering our deficit with Republicans, even though it's a more moderate state than some of the other states that are on the board right now. But none of that matters anymore, right? I mean, could Democrats stick around and be a pain in the ass. I mean, technically they could, but it would be really, we'll see. But it would be really astonishing if they kept that up, given the money is running out. The money is running out. That's why Nikki Haley had to get out. People bounced on her after Super Tuesday. The Democratic money dried up after Super Tuesday. Americans for Prosperity, the Koch family, they ran out. Never forget one of the worst, I just have to make mention of this, one of the worst ad seasons I've ever seen. And one of the worst ads from them came from Americans for Prosperity, which was running all across Super Tuesday states, all in the early states in Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina. It even, again, it was running in Super Tuesday states. I was watching it for God, months. And it basically said that if you reelect Donald Trump, turnout will be higher. Or if you renominate Donald Trump, turnout will be higher. We can beat Democrats if we nominate someone who doesn't drive up turnout. That is, of course, the worst argument I think I've ever heard. It also shows you how dumb these people are. We are forever in a high turnout environment, at least for Democrats. Why? Because that's their coalition now. They have the educated white voter coming to their side. They are high interest voters. Having somebody nominating somebody like Mitt Romney didn't even work when Republicans still did well with white educated voters. Dumbest idea ever. It also happens to be the least inspiring thing I've ever heard in a political ad. It'd be the case of the missing white voter on steroids. And instead, by the way, I'm not going to go and take time and go do it, but instead of living by your word, being true to your word, your word is your bond kind of thing, I guess doesn't mean anything anymore. Her and her rotten family are still all over Twitter being divisive. They took the Reuters, the Ipsos poll from ABC News. I saw your comments, by the way, on Locals. I saw it. ABC News, ever since Gary Langer from Langer Research had Trump plus 10, ABC News, they conducted one more poll with him in which they spiked the general election number. They still showed you, though, how Trump's favorability is actually rebounding. That is the consensus, that Trump's favorabilities are on the rise. Even the New York Times had Trump more popular than Biden now. Yet the ABC Ipsos poll, the Ipsos poll being from the panel that is one of the worst panels, not just in the United States, but globally. This panel misses on Brexit. This panel misses on parliamentary elections all over the world. The West, for sure, but even in Israel, where Likud, they constantly understate Likud. And of course, she's got to take to Twitter. When that poll comes out, it's like watching a rerun, her and her son. I'm not going to get it. It is what it is. I just want to point it out because these boobs that constantly keep talking about unification. Can I let you guys in on a little secret? He doesn't need Nikki Haley and her rotten family to unify that party. He doesn't. Let me let you in on a bigger secret. We're not going to unify the country. It's not going to happen. I don't care what politician tells you what. Yes, economic success can help unify. Trump is right about that. But someone's going to lose and someone's going to win. That's how this story ends. There is no common ground anymore. If you're a moderate, Bob Good is right. And I've been saying this for years too. I just heard Bob Good agree with me. What does it really mean when they talk about all these unifying moderates in DC? It means you don't have any principles. You don't stand for anything. You don't believe in anything. You don't have any conviction. This isn't a small, minor disagreement trying to reach the same goal. It's just everyone differs on, the two sides generally differ on how you're going to get there. That's not what's happening in America today. One side fundamentally does not believe in Americanism anymore. They don't believe in the traditional American national identity. They don't believe in capitalism. They don't believe in freedom. They don't believe in liberty. That's not what they believe in. The traditional definitions of these things, they don't believe in them anymore. One side is tired of sending their kids overseas to die for dumb shit. The other side makes these bogus, false moral arguments and labels everybody else a sympathizer of Vladimir Putin who doesn't agree with them. There is no reconciling this stuff. One side thinks that it's perfectly okay to accuse a married man with a beautiful family of being a serial gang rapist while he's up for a court appointment. The other side believes in something called, not only that, but lynching him basically in front of everyone and destroying his career without any form of a trial or credible accusation. The other side believes in a little something called due process. One side argues that the right to a speedy trial is in the defendant's interest and a defendant right altogether. The other side argues the government has a right to a speedy trial because they have a right to put their political prisoners in jail before an election comes. There's no reconciling this. Someone's going to lose and someone's going to win. At the end of the day, if one side wins, the other side's going in a gulag. That's how this ends. Unifying. Nikki, take that and stick it up your ass. You're going to unify what? Everyone behind Boeing? Get out of here. You're such a scam artist. Go work on a board, man. Fuck out of here. Anyway, Georgia, Tuesday, March 12th, 59 delegates tomorrow, winner take most. Here's how it goes. All 59 of the state delegates to the RNC are bound based on the results of the primary, with 42 district delegates bound to the presidential contender based on the primary results in each of those districts, of course. All right. If the district winner receives 50% or more of the vote, they get all three delegates and they are bound to them. If none receives a majority, the candidate who wins with a plurality gets two delegates and the other candidate gets one, or the next highest number vote getter gets one. 17 statewide delegates, they consist of 10 base at-large delegates, 4 bonus delegates, and 3 RNC delegates. They are bound as well to the winner of the statewide vote. There is a mandatory 20% threshold. This is where I think Trump has the ability to really rack this up and clinch. There's a 20% minimum threshold required. I don't know how this is going to go anymore. I mean, he could seriously get 85, 90% of the vote. Anyway, for each candidate getting that, it is done proportionately. I even gave you the little equation here, and it's based on the total qualifying vote, meaning it's only the vote from candidates that meet that threshold. If, of course, nobody receives, or if only one candidate meets that threshold, or there is a majority winner, then they take all of those at-large delegates, okay? So you can easily see how Georgia gets turned pretty quickly into a winner-take-all state. And even though it's open and it's a winner-take-most. Let's go to Missouri. What just happened there? All 54 delegates are bound to the results of the primary. If a candidate earns a majority statewide, then all 54 delegates are awarded on a winner-take-all basis. It doesn't matter what happens if not, because we don't have to worry about it anymore. That's a done deal. That is a wrap. All right, let's move to Mississippi, where Trump has obviously done incredible things in the state. Excuse me, sorry. Alabama, Mississippi. There was what we already did. We had Tennessee and Alabama already, did we not? What are the other two? No, Arkansas. Always mess up. We have Arkansas and Alabama and Oklahoma on Super Tuesday. And of course North Carolina, because there's a lot of black voters in Mississippi. I'm curious to see what kind of crossover there may be. It's not competitive now, so it may blur. It may blur some of the data. So when it was competitive, there was absolutely evidence of black belt county voting for Donald Trump. There absolutely was evidence of urban northern city non-white voting for Donald Trump. And again, we're not talking about a huge number of people, but it doesn't matter. I mean, Republican primaries are 97, 98% white. I mean, that's combined non-white vote share. That is typically what they are. So when you have 11% voting and in the black belt counties are voting, to the point where 10, 11% of the statewide vote is non-white, it's a big difference. It's a big deal. I don't know that we'll see that anymore because it's not competitive, but it's something I'll be looking for. It's an open primary as well in Mississippi. All 39 delegates are bound. There are 12 district delegates, of course, 3 per district. The rest are at large, 27 being at large. If one candidate gets 50% or more in each district, they get all 3. There's a winner-take-all provision by district, and there's a 15% threshold on the at-large statewide delegates. So again, you can really see Trump start to rack it up. And I don't know if you guys have looked. I don't know when the last time it is that you looked, but he's very, very close to it now. So is Joe Biden. Frankly, it's just that Democrats have different contests at different times. And their proportional allocation. So it may take time for Joe Biden's delegates to be added up to the point where he clinches before Donald Trump. Trump may get it first. All right. We'll see. Republicans, for those who don't know, they need 1,215 to win the nomination. Trump already has 1,074 delegates. And between, by the way, going real quick, Georgia is 59 delegates. Mississippi is 39 and Missouri is 54. So, I mean, already there, Trump is really, really close just based on the rules of those contests alone. Idaho also is winner take most. And then you have Washington, which is a winner take most weird kind of district system. Okay. It's very odd how both Oregon and Washington work. But Washington's really screwy. Only registered voters of party. It's closed contest. Can participate in Washington, though. That's big difference than some of these other contests. See how it says winner take most district and then proportional statewide. However, all 43 for the are bound to the winner of the contest. For each of the 10 for the district delegates, 3 per district, right? If a candidate wins a majority or only one meets the 20% threshold, all 3 delegates are awarded. If 2, then there's meet that 20% threshold and nobody gets a majority, then it is a 2-to-1 system. But then for the at-large 13 delegates, it is proportional using the total of the state qualifying statewide vote. There's how you do it, by the way, if you want to learn how the rounding rules work. All right. But again, just from district delegates alone in the other 3 contests, he's absolutely really, really close. Idaho is 32 for a tiny little state. It's pretty impressive. Can we get rid of it, please? Thank you. Also open. It's a winner take most. All 32 delegates are pledged as a result of the primary. If one candidate wins 50% of the statewide vote, then all delegates are awarded on a winner-take-all basis. And if none get 50%, then they are allocated proportionally to the candidates who meet the minimum threshold. However, I mean, we expect here Trump to get all of these delegates, so adding them up, he's there. What else? Hawaii is a closed caucus. That also is, I believe, that same day, if I'm not mistaken. Why did I move Hawaii? I'm right about Hawaii. Democrats have Georgia as well. They have Mississippi as well, and they have Washington. All right, so there it is. What did I moved something? Democrats moved up Hawaii. Oh, there's another announcement too. Hold on. This one's kind of a big deal. That's right. There was a Democrat memo that went out. Bear with me. This is pretty important. Ah, Democrats abroad. All right. They were originally scheduled. It's been going on, but they were originally scheduled to release the results on the 12th. But now that has been postponed to the 25th. So if you did see, by any chance, if you figured out how to look at stuff a little early, which I don't want you to because their test data can screw people up, and then I have to hear it from everybody. If you did manage to see that, that's why it has been moved. All right. Yeah. Hawaii is the Republican Party only. That's right. And Idaho was moved. I'm sorry. I don't know why I didn't move it on this map, but it was moved. So I'm looking at my little notes here. So that leaves, like I said, 59 delegates for Georgia, 40 for Mississippi, 43 for Washington State, and 19 for Hawaii. 19 Hawaii is closed, by the way. That is a closed contest, and it does have a kind of crazy system. Are the rules up on this map? Let's see. Are it's some weird stuff. You see it? I mean, it is nuts. There's a threshold. At this point, it's more than likely that even with rounding rules, given what we saw in American Samoa, if it ends up like that, where Trump is like, put a stranglehold on some of the, these local party operations, if it ends up like that, it wouldn't really matter anyway with rounding rules. Nobody's going to get enough. Guam on March 15, by the way, they don't have we still don't know how Guam intends to allocate. There is no formal allocation process. So we have not heard, the party has not been notified how Guam intends to allocate their delegates. I know it's weird. It's been like this. We double checked. What was this response? This was yesterday, last night. So we still don't know. By the time March 15th comes along, Northern Marianas, which is winner take all for the GOP, there is a change. It does look like no threshold will be no minimum threshold will be enforced. But the way the formula rule was changed for Hawaii, for the Republican Party, I did see it right here. Here we go. It doesn't look like any candidates who receive minor vote shares would still be. It's not a threshold. It's just the rounding rules. It's the math. They're making it so the presumptive nominee gets the delegates. So that would put, again, so you can see how easily this puts Trump over. I mean, guys, Georgia and Mississippi alone are going to be, huge for Trump. That would be over 100 and something delegates, even if he didn't get them all. What else? Let's see. Yeah, I mean, nothing we haven't told you already. I'm just looking at, there were some last minute changes, so I'm just throwing it up there and looking in. But I don't think we're gonna get exit polls. I don't really see the point at this, at this juncture. There really is no reason to conduct exit polls and waste the money. There's just no mystery, right? There's no mystery. All right, I want to spend a lot of time on Florida, and I know we're going to need to take a break here in a little bit, but I want to spend a lot of time on Florida because I want to go through it. There's some changes that we made post-census, 2020 census. We did do some changes. We always try to keep our regional definitions in line with traditional exit polling so you guys have a much better gauge of how somebody is doing in certain areas, regions, and maybe even get to compare how it was a before and after kind of thing. Florida is just changing a lot. It's getting a lot more Republican, and it won't make sense to some people for us to keep the regional definitions the way they are or were. I've already changed several of them, and I'm just waiting on the last of it to see. But I have to go through this with you. Otherwise, it may look like Tampa's like same amount. It's probably going to be a little bit more because Tampa's a growing area. But for instance, Monroe County. You know what? Let's bring it up. Monroe County used to be considered. Let me give you the key. I was trying to do this for you guys so you could see it easy, but hold on. Let me resize this. Where's resize at, guys? I thought it was always an insert. Data, split text column. I'm trying to make it bigger so you can see it, but honestly, it doesn't matter. I can just show it to you. Oh, wait. Resize. Fit to data. There we go. So now you can see we changed some names to more accurately reflect what it is. Okay. We're obviously collecting county information from people we're talking to. All right. So obviously county, postal, we even get their longitude and latitude, but you can't always count on that because somebody may take the survey while sitting in a parking lot in Publix somewhere, a town over. Maybe they're in Sebastian and technically they're part of Greater Indian River or something. So you never know, and you really need the validated voter population so you can know for sure where that voter is registered, lives, their address. So looking at that, basically, we're going to obviously focus on counties. All right. Oh, man, that's so hard for you guys to see. It is. That kind of sucks, but it is what it is. All right. So the panhandle now, we're splitting up from what is called, and you may know this if you're familiar with Florida, but you may not. We used to just call it Panhandle North. And that was roughly ballpark 20% of the vote. It's going to be more than that now because we're splitting the Panhandle and Big Bend up. Big Bend is the part of Florida, and I did actually hold on one second. I can actually show you some maps. Yeah, let me do that. Oops, let me not go back. I don't want to waste. There's some maps I'm working on. I don't want to waste. So forgive me. Bear with me. Let me get you the map for the entire Panhandle. And then let's talk about just Big Bend so you can see the difference. Okay. Wow, that's small. God, I'm trying to get you a bigger one. Why are these so small? I guess no reason, but you'll get the idea. Yeah, they're tiny. All right, so let's get rid of this for a second. Put the map up. All right, this is Big Bend in Florida. There's a lot of liberal areas in there. All right. You have a lot of liberal vote because it consists of Gadsden and it consists of Leon. And there's some, of course, obviously Democrats in other places. But to the west of where you see in the shaded red area right there, which is, of course, the known Panhandle, I would say. And that's a blurry picture. So let's use that one. That's the entire Panhandle. And then Big Bend is just a piece of that. You guys see that? I know it's small to see, but that's generally what we're talking about here. From the west of Big Bend is what is traditionally the Panhandle. All right. And to give you the counties, the definition by counties, this is the entire Panhandle region. And this is, if you're not counting Big Bend, it is Bay, Calhoun, Escambia, Gulf, Holmes, Jackson, Okaloosa, Santa Rosa, Walton, and Washington. If you add the Big Bend area, which let's just show you that, then we're talking about just a handful of counties: Dixie, Franklin, Gadsden, Hamilton, Jefferson, Lafayette, Leon, Liberty, Madison, Taylor, and Wakulla. Then there's going to be this other area of more of what is traditional North Central Florida. And that includes areas like Alachua County. And I know this is kind of a sucky one too, but that's going to be all of the North. All right. And then, so you see how we're doing this? We're like, we're gonna separate them, and then we'll be able still to do a regrouping variable, so we can just simply show you Panhandle North, or we could just say North Central Florida, whatever. That'll be the entire, and it should be a little bit over 20% of the vote because of where people are moving now. Tallahassee, and even in parts of the Panhandle, which have gained population since the census. You're talking about what used to be 18% of the vote to somewhere probably in the neighborhood of 22% of the vote. Miami has lost population. The Miami Gold Coast area, which also had a change, has lost population over the last 2 years. For everybody, and I'm not trying to make a dig to Ron DeSantis here, but Governor DeSantis is the first governor in like this millennia who's presided over population loss in the Miami metropolitan area. It's quite astonishing, actually, but we just have not seen that. So I don't know what exit pollsters are going to do. They're going to still call it Miami Gold Coast. We used to use, of course, Southeastern Gold Coast. We used to use different terminologies like that. Actually, it was Southeast / Gold Coast. But that was only Miami, Broward, and Palm Beach. Okay, now it's going to include Monroe, because Monroe is part. Here's Monroe here. I don't know if you can see my cursor. It's Southwest County. It looks to be part of the Southwest. It used to be part of the Southwest. The exit polls in 2020 consider Monroe County. So if you went right now to the CNN exit polls, it would show you Biden won the Miami Gold Coast area 58-41. All right. Trump actually carried Monroe 53.5 to 45.6. Biden carried Miami 53.4 to 46.1, barely. But then Biden carried Palm Beach, which is not Broward, is right north, as you can see. He carried that pretty big, 64.6 to 34.8. And then he carried Palm Beach 56.1 to 43.3. Palm Beach may be going as well. I'm just telling you, Trump, honestly, Trump may win every single county except for Palm Beach. Broward, Alachua. He is going to win Duval. That's going to happen. And probably Leon. We'll find out. I'm serious. We'll find out very soon, but Gadsden and Leon both are very Democratic. So yeah, Gadsden, Leon, Duval's going back to Trump. I'm telling you right now. Alachua is still Democratic. Pinellas and Hillsborough are going back to Trump. Trump looks like he's even going to carry Osceola and Seminole. Osceola and Seminole. Maybe Orange stays in Biden's camp, but it looks like Palm Beach is going. Broward will be less Democratic than it was. I think Trump's going to get 40% of the vote in Broward County. I do. And then Miami is gone. Donald Trump is going to carry Miami at this rate. I don't see anything that can change the trajectory that county is headed on. Now, for people who say, well, look at the governor's race. We've been over this a billion times. And I'm telling you that governor's races are local races, and they're not at all indicative of presidential outcomes. However, Rubio, who is Rubio is, I wouldn't use the term very popular, but I would say that Rubio has broad popularity, meaning among various groups, Rubio is still, more popular than a lot of some other Republicans, for instance. Okay. And I'm telling you, Duval is gone. Trump has got Duval. It's going. He only lost it 51.3 to 47.4. Duval was close. It was very close in 2020. This is a different state. Let me put it that way. And Duval, for people who can't see, you know what? Forget this. Let me put up 2020 so you guys can see what I'm talking about, because I'm telling you a trend this big is simply not able to hold. Biden would not be able to hold back swings in areas like this. You can see Gadsden is hugely Democratic still. So is Leon. Duval is not. Duval is a state that Republicans can win. By the way, Trump carried Duval County in 2016. He did. Um, Things seem to be shifting back. Alachua, still pretty Democratic, though I wouldn't be surprised if Trump did get in the 40s. Why? Because there's a large population of African Americans in parts of Gainesville, and Donald Trump is doing extremely well with urban men who are African American. He is doing shockingly well. He's even doing better with women. I think that probably the poll I'm going to be the first to admit it. I think the poll probably overstates his black support a little bit, but sampling errors for subgroups are higher. And I wouldn't be surprised if we're understating his white vote a little bit. So these things tend to iron out. What is clear is that Donald Trump is doing much better with both black men and women, and he's doing exceptionally well with black men. And in an area like Alachua, it's basically the Gainesville, if you want to call it a metropolitan area. It's not an urban area to me. What I consider urban is not quite it. I lived in Gainesville for years, but for 15 almost years. The surrounding area is rural. So they have what's called the Red Wall in Alachua, where they box in the University of Gainesville. And then peripheral to it, Gainesville still has let me think about the right way to say this. The culture of what used to be the white side of town and the black side of town is still very much present in Gainesville. The university runs the show, and they don't want any problems with certain neighborhoods to bleed into, like University Boulevard or something. Okay? It's just true. Or University Avenue, excuse me. They don't want that. So you can see that. There has been instances where there were like political voting revolts from the black community in Gainesville. We saw it several times. We saw it in a mayoral race. We saw Keith Perry, who was a state legislator first, state house, then state senate, do very well with certain members of the black community because he's a local boy, and he had some he had some ties. Would later, of course, evaporate that relationship, but that's a plausible, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a plausible outcome to see. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if 20-30% of black men like voted for Donald Trump in Gainesville. It's just that kind of an area. Depends if they vote, because of course the most activist African-American voters and African-American communities are the most Democratic. It really is the job of the Republican Party to get the rest of the community out. As Wayne Dupree says all the time, and as a black man, he hates it. He's hated this for years. He's always hated people say, black people are 95% Democratic. The truth is they're not. The voting black electorate is 95% Democratic. Those are two very different things, but Republicans have been pathetic in outreach and have not gotten these people to the polls. You're going to see it in a second, guys. I'm telling you, this is not normal. There have been instances of Republicans winning 20% of the black vote in Florida. It's happened. Governor DeSantis, his first election, you could argue black women elected Ron DeSantis the first time because of his school choice platform. He did extremely well with black voters. He actually fell in 2022 among black voters in Florida, even though we won in a romp. Or so the exit polls would lead you believe. I don't know how it's possible when you win that much in Alachua, when you win that much in Broward. I suppose you could do it on overwhelming support with whites. I don't buy it. You have to do respectable with black voters. I think they're estimating Ron DeSantis got something like 12% of the black vote. I just personally don't believe that, but whatever. I think he did better. I do. But anyway, yeah, that leaves that. As you can see, this is the Tampa area moving into Pinellas. It was decided by 1,241 votes. That's it. It's a swing county, Pinellas. Actually, Trump had led for a while. There were some late arriving ballots that came in. that were supposedly checked before the deadline. So that's why they were counted. They just weren't reported correctly or something. But Trump had led by like 200 votes. And then that chunk of late arriving ballots put Biden over. So you can see how very close it was. Trump carried Pinellas County in 2016. And we had argued, by the way, this is part of another change we made. I'll show you in a second. But we had long argued, everyone was focusing on Hillsborough in 2016. People were like, well, Hillary's winning Hillsborough, so there's no way Trump can win the state. And we argued that's not really the influx in the Tampa area anymore. Yes, there's the corridor Puerto Rican population that moved into Hillsborough, but really the Tampa area is going to be decided by Pinellas. We had argued that in 16. And then by 18, it was very clear that they had branched out in areas that have not truly, and I'm talking about migrant, state to state migration from working class whites, particularly in the Northeast and certain Midwest states like Illinois. They weren't going to Hillsborough anymore. And then after that, they weren't going to Pinellas anymore. They were going to Pasco. They were going even to Hernando. All right. And of course, the Southwest coast, but we'll get into that in a second. So that's how, I mean, things change. But overall, Donald Trump still did win the Tampa Bay area 51-48. And it depends what you consider the Tampa area. We've made a change. It used to be us. We had Pasco, Pinellas, and Hillsborough. That was it. That's what we used to call the Tampa area. Because of the changes, census does expand. Some people expand all the way to Citrus when they're talking about the Tampa area in their weights. We're not doing that, but we did add Hernando County to the Tampa area. And it was close as to whether or not to add Manatee, but I think it throws off the Gulf Coast regional representation way too much. So we stopped there. Excuse me. What do we got? 12:53. Long enough to keep going here. Let me just read this real quick and we'll come back and we'll talk about Miami a little bit more in the Gulf Coast. Because it's going to look like we have too much when it comes to the North. We don't. It's that some of the Gulf Coast, we're not doing this hop, skip around Tampa area and then all the way up to to other areas. We're not doing that like some people do, and they do. If Citrus isn't a part of Tampa, then it's considered in their Gulf Coast, and that's understandable. But I'm not going around the Tampa area. I'm not doing it yet anyway. I'd rather just consider it north, which is why we made the decision to split up the Panhandle, split up Big Bend, and then specify north central Florida, which Flagler, St. John's, Duval, Nassau, we're keeping part of the north. Maybe we won't keep that forever, but that's what we're doing now. And Orlando Atlantic ends at Volusia. All right. So we're going to show you all this. And I'm going to put up a regional map when we do this poll. But for now, North Central is Alachua, Baker, Bradford, Citrus, Clay, Columbia, Dixie, Duval, Flagler, Gilchrist, Levy, Marion, Nassau, Putnam, St. John's, and Sewanee and Union. I actually thought one thing was changed from that, but I guess, give me 1 second. No, I'm right. Yeah, all the way down to Flagler, and that's it. From Flagler over Volusia and Brevard, Seminole, Orange, we're all keeping that. That's all being kept in the Orlando Metropolitan and Central Atlantic, which is what really did, like, as far as Volusia, north of that, that's going to be North Florida, because that's what Edison and others have decided to do. And I'm trying to stay consistent. So when exit polls come out in November, you have some idea of what to expect based on what you're seeing in those regions. All right. God, take a break already. 12:55. All right. Yeah, let's do that. Let me get a 30-second break here real quick. I'm just going to grab some water and we'll come back. We'll do a little read from our friends at Jam and Bean, and then we'll move on and I'll show you some of the polling results. I really did have to preface all of this, folks, with this. Trust me. All right. Trust me. Because when the crosstabs later come out, you're going to see the difference between Big Bend and the Panhandle. And honestly, it may actually help quite a bit because in the past, a lot of people are like, why is your Panhandle number so Democratic? Because Big Bend is in it. So the exit polls are just showing you Panhandle and North. And because the rest of the North outside of Big Bend is Republican again, it makes it look like it's super Republican with the Panhandle. But that's not the case. There's Gadsden and there's Leon, which is very liberal. So it'd be nice to kind of separate them out and to give people a better idea of where the support is coming from. And we are going to do our map where we have the locators and you can click on the interview details for each. But this press release will also have, that'll be the first map because people are getting used to the interview details and we'll do that. But then the second map is going to be regional like we did for the national poll where you add New England, the North Atlantic, right? We're going to do the same thing. It'll look kind of like the census division map for the national poll. All right, but yeah, let me take a 30-second break for some water. When we come back, we will talk about the rest of this. All right, let's talk about our friends at Jam and Bean, Michigan-based. As always, great company. Great, there's the teas. I'm becoming a huge fan of their teas. Anyway, what are you going to use to stay up tomorrow when we're doing our mini Super Tuesday? I recommend Jam and Bean, JAMN, bean.com. When you sign up for a new subscription to Jam and Bean and use the People's Pundit promo code, which is TPP40. Again, TPP40. You'll get 40% off right off the rip as soon as you sign up for a new subscription. Plus, you will get 10% off when the subscription renews every month. And that doesn't, look at those custom gift boxes. They're great. That doesn't just apply to coffee or tea or whatever. You sign up for a new subscription, use that promo code. They are really doing a lot of like product development stuff. That's really cool, really exciting. They sent me a bunch of stuff and, I think you guys will like it too. Send us your feedback. We always love to hear it. But if you're like me and in the middle of the day, I'm a dark roast guy. I'm a full body dark roast guy. But in the middle of the day, maybe, you get older, you can't stomach the dark roast all day long, right? But I would love a full bodied medium roast. And that is basically impossible to find. It is impossible to find when it comes to K-Cups. If you're in a hurry and you're like me, you like to brew your stuff. But sometimes you just don't have the time. And a K-Cup is what you need to save time, get the cup, and move on. And you will not find a medium roast that is full-bodied like the one at Jam and Bean. You just won't. I'm telling you. You go to the grocery store, pop those puppies open, you're going to see it's a scam. They're giving you dark roast, a little less of it, and then putting some nasty wafer in a bunch of them. Trust me, I've seen it. Nasty wafer. God knows what the hell that thing's doing when you're running hot water through it. I only imagine what we're ingesting, right? So instead, check out Jam and Bean and send us your feedback because we'd love to hear it. One more time, promo code TPP40. Promo code TPP40 at checkout. And yeah, we do love the feedback. It's always good feedback. Always good. And then popcorn, Laura's always like a popcorn person. I've not always been a popcorn person. Their popcorn is amazing. Absolutely amazing. So good. And unlike so many of these other like gourmet popcorn people, they're affordable. All right. Let me just do a quick refresh. All right. Every time I thought in this poll, how could I put this? Every time I thought in this poll, Joe Biden was going to perform better. Oh, okay. Here he's doing a little bit better tonight, or he's doing a little bit better this afternoon, whatever it may be. He's doing better in this mode, that mode. It was short-lived. And we still have a result that's pretty close to the actual result. When we wait Certainly region's going to help Biden a little bit. Education looks pretty much spot on, but maybe it'll help a little bit. The big loss, there are some groups where Biden just really cratered. And there's a bunch of people who are telling us, so our 2020 vote is Trump 52.7. Very, very close to the full statewide vote. Where, I mean, we're 52.2 or something like, sorry. And I thought I was actually right about that. I thought I was right the first time. Okay. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But anyway, Biden's being understated a little bit, and it's not because the sample is all that extra Trumpy. It's because about 2.5% who look like Biden voters are telling us that they voted for someone else. A little bit more, actually, but about 2.5%. The overall someone else is over 3%, which did not happen. Less than 1% voted third party, even though it was a slew of candidates on the ballot. I mean, I could show you, but just take my word for it. Joe Jorgensen got 70,324 votes, which was only 0.64%. Howie Hawkins got less than 15,000 votes. That was 0.13%. Roque de la Fuente got a little less than 6,000, which was 0.05. And Gloria La Riva, she got a little more than 5,700 votes, 0.05. And then Don Blankenship got less than 4,000 votes. That's 0.04. You add it all up and you get less than a point. What does that mean? Well, let's look at the demographics of people who said they voted for someone else. They're full of crap. They're Biden voters. They're more educated. And actually, I can even pinpoint the education of those who are saying that they did that. Joe Biden allegedly, Florida was weird. Joe Biden allegedly won, barely, but he did. He won people who said that they have some college, an associate degree. No, some college. He won by 1 point. Associate degree, Trump won by 8. Never attended college. Trump won 56-44. Bachelor degree, Trump won 50-49. An advanced degree, Trump lost 53-45. Florida, again, is just more Trumpy. We can actually look and see who these people are. Those who say they voted for Joe Biden have a lower strongly disapprove rating. Strongly disapprove is in the 40s in Florida, yet it's only 36.6% with those who say they voted for someone else. And you know what? Let me just pull this up. This part I'll show you. Am I on the full one? I just want to make sure I'm on the full one. Yeah, okay. Before I share it with you, yeah, here's the combined. And they're highly likely voters. I mean, these people have vote history. Believe me, they're going to vote. It's not that many of them, but it doesn't matter. There's definitely lying going on here. These are people who voted for Joe Biden, or at least many of them, who don't want to admit they voted for Joe Biden. As you could see, they no longer approve of him. Did I move this to the right one? Yeah. So, how did I just, it updated. Sorry. There's more. He's doing worse now. Okay. Yeah, he's doing worse. Here's Governor DeSantis among these people, by the way. They're not in love with Governor DeSantis. So if they were Republicans lying about voting, for Donald Trump, you would not see that. You would see Governor DeSantis' approval rating doing fairly well. So now these people are what we would, if you're looking at Biden, DeSantis, the overlap with that population, they're double haters. Meaning they don't like Joe, they don't like Ron either. Again, Ron's doing better than Joe, but there's still a huge chunk that doesn't like Ron DeSantis. So look, huge chunk that's just undecided. That is being bloated by a bunch of people who absolutely did vote for Joe Jorgensen. But believe me when I tell you that probably 10 people in this undecided voted for Joe Biden. At least 10, 15, maybe. Let's look at what they are by demographics. Sorry, I'm just zipping past this for now intentionally. Inflation is their number one concern. The economy is second. Healthcare is third. Threats to democracy and corruption. This should all be like a tip off to you guys. All right. Crime and safety, way down on their list. Immigration, even, which is the number two issue in this poll, 7%. These aren't a bunch of Republicans. All right. 46.3% call themselves independents, 22 Republicans, 17 Democrat, 15 someone else. So pretty even. They're very moderate, 59%. Joe Biden allegedly won moderates by, I'm getting you this on purpose, just so you know that people are lying. You know what I mean? We could prove it. Joe Biden won moderates basically 60-40, 59-40. He won liberals 83-16. 17% are liberal. Only 24% are conservative, and Biden did about 16% among conservatives. So it's a more Biden-friendly demographic, all right? Even those who say they were Republican, which isn't many, we're talking about 9 people, they're 78% traditional. Which one would you more closely align with? I share little in common with either, is 56%. That is now a group. Independents who share little in common with either party is now a group very favorable to Donald Trump. But in 2020, it was a group that was more favorable to Joe Biden. It's 61% female, 39% male. And by the way, that's another thing when we go over the black vote share. About 41% is male. The rest are female. I'm talking about the black sample. That's almost identical to the male to female split among black voters in 2020. Black voters were about 6% of the electorate. Females were about 9% to make up a total of 15%. If you do that math, you'll see black men are about 40% of that, and women are the rest. So again, that's another demographic where it came out looking good, so we just have to trust the data. Do I expect him to be do I expect that the poll is overstating his support somewhat? I do. I just don't think, oops, what the hell did I do? I don't think it's enough to raise an alarm over it. Like, that's what it is. They are younger too, black voters. But getting back to this, they're actually even older, a little bit older by age. Trump did well with younger voters in Florida. 30 up, Trump won. And he won, in some of the cases, he won them pretty handily. From 50 up, he won them by 10 points. 30 to 49, he won by about 3 altogether. 30 to 39, he won by 2. 40 to 49, he won by 3. So he won by 2.5 points, something like that. So, close, very close. Did I knock that out? Yeah, I did. When I hit that thing, I knocked it out. You're not seeing any of this. Oh, my goodness. Sorry about that. I'm going to have to go back real quick. I guess when I hit that button, it knocked it out. There's females. That's all, I was trying to show you. Age, it's less Hispanic than overall, less black than overall. Black's actually a little bit high, I think, in this poll. So that's probably going to be when region is adjusted, race will probably iron out. But it is whiter than it was in 2020. We'll see if that lasts. I'm not sure. In 2016, for the presidential election, it was only 62% white. In 2020, it was also 62% white in Florida, but it was 68%, I believe, or 66% white in 2022. So it got a little bit whiter in the midterm when Rubio and DeSantis romped. But it doesn't matter. I'm telling you, it'll be about probably 64% white in this poll, and it's just not going to matter. You'll see. What by 8? Where is it? Forget about this. Yeah, by there it is. Okay. So see this someone else? Look at where they're coming from. Bachelor's degree, some college, and associate degree. The some college, Biden won by a point. He lost associate degree. but he lost Bachelor, unlike every other state, but he barely lost it. Trump won it by a little. Biden won graduate, postgraduates, who made up, by the way, only what, 13% maybe, or 14%? Let me see. Advanced degrees, 14% in 2020. That's about what we have. Bachelor, 22, associate's degree, 20, some college, 25. We're going to be a little bit less on some college associate's degree, but a little bit more on just a high school degree or less. High school or less, be a few points higher than was in 2020. Some college associate will be a little bit, did I say that backward? High school or less will be a little bit more, a few points more of the electorate than it was in 2020. Some college and associate degree will be a little bit less. Bachelor's about the same. I think it's like 2 points higher. And advanced degree is basically spot on at 14%. Well, that won't change much at all. What else? What else? What else? Yeah, so I mean, you could see who these people are. So this someone, the point I'm trying to make here is that someone else, they're lying. They're lying. All right, let's get rid of this altogether. Let's look at Miami-Dade. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? County. Let's just look at Miami-Dade first, and then we'll look at the Miami Gold Coast area. All right. Just Miami. Okay, let's go up. Oh, I didn't put the oversample in here. It doesn't matter. I'll have to do that, though. So here we are. Wow, that's like really close to the overall result. Really close. I don't know if you guys can see that. There's another 200 though that have to go in there. We oversampled Miami, but it's amazing, remarkable how consistent. It's remarkable how consistent Miami was the whole time. From like 30 interviews on, it was incredibly consistent, which tells us that a lot of, I mean, Miami obviously is a heavily Hispanic area and less Puerto Rican than the rest of the state. So I don't want to say it's unique because it's not. It's a diverse area. But as long as you have a chunk from like two demographic groups, you can understand a good deal about it. But in any event, here we have 54.3 for Joe Biden to 45.7 for Donald Trump. That's really incredible because Joe Biden won 53.4% of the vote. Very, very close. And Donald Trump won 46.1% of the vote. So if anything, it's a little bit too Biden-y from 2020. But you can see now, here's Biden's approval rating, and this is not only 2020 voters, but people who will be new voters. We would have probably have seen it grow more than this, but like I said, Miami-Dade is down, actually. The last 2 years have been negative. All right, so strongly approves only 18%. Strongly disapprove is 27.6 for Joe Biden. Looking at Ron DeSantis, strongly disapprove in Miami is actually more, 34.5. But then again, so is strongly approve at 20.7. Now, if the presidential election was held today, these are the same people who said that they voted for Joe Biden, folks, okay? Now it's 49.4 for Trump to 37.9 for Biden, and just about 13% being undecided. When they do lean to Biden a little bit, but when all said and done, Trump will have a lead. Here is with the someone else third party, which is what we're going to probably wind up releasing first to stay consistent, but also because Florida is easier for ballot access, this will be a more accurate gauge. And Trump leads by 6. Undecided is 11.5. Someone else third party gets 2.3. When you ask them to lean, Trump actually takes the leaners, and you can see that what probably was Joe Biden's vote from 2020 is being cast off to the someone else third party. So Trump again would win by about the margin that Biden won it by in 2020. It's almost completely flipped in Miami-Dade, almost completely reversed. Really remarkable. The Tampa area, by the way, is a little bit too Trumpy, and we'll get to that, but it'll work out in the end. Watch, you'll see. Gets a little closer when you add Kennedy. Florida is an area, I'll tell you, Florida is a state where it looks like just the addition of Robert Kennedy hurts Donald Trump. It does. I hate to say it, but that's the way it goes. That is clear as day to me. But again, when you start to add more people, then actually they hurt Joe Biden. If it's just Kennedy and like a bunch of other nobodies, like it was last time, then it's going to hurt Donald Trump. If it is people, if there are people who others know, West gets like no support in Miami-Dade. He gets Cornel West, he gets like nothing, which is very interesting to me, but he gets like nothing. If you're looking at just Miami-Dade, Jill Stein is going to pull about 2%. Lars Mapstead's getting 3%. Undecided still 7%. Kennedy falls to 9.2%, but as you can see, a lot of that comes from Joe Biden. When you give the fuller ballot, Trump actually gets a higher share of the vote. Not only is his margin bigger, but he actually gets a larger share of the vote, which is interesting. And again, remember, this is just Dade. But it's not just Dade. It's a big deal. Noticeably, the Democrat in the Senate race leads Rick Scott in Miami-Dade. Yes, there's a huge chunk that's undecided, but notice how far ahead Donald Trump is running than Republicans in Miami-Dade. Republicans are at 35.6, still a huge chunk that's undecided. We'll lean them soon, but it is what it is right now. Democrats get 43% of the vote. Debbie, every time I think about this, I think marsupial. I don't know why. Powell, hyphenated Powell, is at 44. It's Trump. This is unique to Donald Trump. It is. All Republicans are going to do better in Miami-Dade. That's just true. But there's no doubt that Trump is doing better than other people. And we can look and see, by the way, like I said, Republican, Democrat, they just trust Trump on all the issues more. It's a big deal. Their number one in Miami-Dade, the number one issue is actually the economy and inflation. Immigration is there. It's number 3, but it's down compared to the rest of the state. All right. You can see it's still more Democratic than it is Republican. Miami-Dade is much closer to this now than it used to be, but yet it's still D+. I'm showing you this because I just want you to know, what we're looking at here. Not conservative. Not a place where a whole lot of people would say I'm super conservative. It's still very moderate. But those who are Republican are America first. Those who are independent do fall into that category that Trump's doing really well with right now, share little in common with either, but they split about equally between the Republican and Democratic Party. It's a little bit more female. Miami-Dade is more female. It could be, this is 57.5. Florida could be 55%. In a presidential election, Florida could be 55% female. All right. It's not all that old at all. It's younger. So it is what it is. You can see it's, more Hispanic than anything else. Actually, quite African-American here. So there you have it. All right. Obviously, it's very Cuban here. Much more Cuban than any other Hispanic. Speaking of which, let's look at Hispanics. Let's do that. And this will be out, like I said, this will be processed and out today, but let's look at it. This is something worth noting. Let's see. This is where Hispanics come from in the poll. Let's go backwards. I mean, let's just take what happened and use it. Almost 40% of the sample comes from Miami. The rest come in the corridor area, which you would expect because that's where Puerto Ricans are. That's the largest group still in Florida. Largest single Hispanic group is still Puerto Rican, I believe. Or no, is it Cuban now? I have to go look. But Puerto Ricans are along the I-4 corridor and into Tampa, the Tampa area. They are not as heavily populated in the Miami Gold Coast area like Cubans are, right? So they dominated. So do Venezuelans. There's growing every year now. I think in 2020, Venezuelans were low single digits. They're getting close to 10% now. Very, very interesting stuff. Obviously, very urban, but more in the suburbs. Almost nothing in rural. But there's hardly anything in rural areas, period, in the state of Florida. They're more Catholic, of course. They are becoming less religious in general. And then if you add it together, about 24% non-Catholic Christian, all right, 1.5% Jewish, very small number with everything else. Look, they got kids, of course. Majority is children. Not huge numbers for vets, but is what it is. By income, 6% make 200 or more. They mostly do not have a college degree, although some obviously post-grads. That's higher than actually. That's interesting. That's higher than the overall state, but maybe not so much anymore, not in this day and age. And there's the breakdown by Hispanic ethnicity. You can see that. Where are we? By age, they align more with the Democratic Party, but barely. But that's great. I'm glad they showed that. And by male, it's 52.3% female, 47.7% male. Pretty close. I'm glad that look at, by the way, how much more America First Hispanic Republicans are than they are traditional Republicans. 60% of Hispanic Republicans in the state of Florida identify as America First Republicans. That's more than the entire Republican population in the state, which is it's a majority America First, but there's a lot of, I don't know, unsures. 42% moderate, about 30% conservative, and 30% liberal. We already went over the Democrats thing, right? Thought we did already. Oh, no, I was going to say, that's got to be the lean. That was lean because Hispanics are actually more Republican now in Florida than they were. But interestingly, look at this. Republicans are carrying Hispanics by a few points. Rick Scott carrying Hispanics by a few points. Just bear with me. I'm gonna skip over all the other ones because I want to show you this first. Trump is twice the margin. Twice the margin than generic Republicans and Rick Scott has over Debbie. Twice the margin. And when you lean, they're almost even. Joe Biden took a few more leaners. When you add the third party option in there, Trump's margins, it does shrink. Although he does win, the ratio is about even with leaners. So there it is. Add Kennedy, margin does increase. That tells us that Hispanics are not really huge on Robert Kennedy. And guys, wait, time out. That's a good point to stop and reinforce something we've been trying to explain to people. While it looks like, especially national poll, it does look like Kennedy hurts Joe Biden more than he hurts Donald Trump. The presidential election is, of course, decided where? In the Electoral College. He can't throw the state of Florida to Joe Biden. But it does show you that there's only one small group that really is attracted to RFK. Educated white voters are not throwing their support behind RFK. They're just not. Hispanic voters in Florida are not in love with RFK. They like the generic someone else better than they liked him. When he was named, he did not get that kind of vote share. They actually went back and beefed up Trump's margin a little bit. He gets support from white voters who are not educated. In fact, We can pull that up right now and just pick people who in the Trump v. Biden matchup where we add him, which should be situation 3. Let it roll up. Yep. Okay. Let me pop this back up there. So see what I'm doing? I'm filtering only RFK supporters in the matchup with him, Trump, and someone else. Let's go down to race first. By the way, he's taking independents. He does take more Democrats than Republicans, but it's the independent vote. That's really where you see Trump's margin fell when you added RFK. It's because of those people who say have little in common with either party. Watch. He's taking more liberals than conservatives, but it's this moderate vote. And by the way, it's not much. They're very close. Traditional Republicans, more than America First, share little in common with either is the number one. And among independents, he actually slightly pulls more into Republican-leaning independents than Democrat, although, again, very close. It's really coming from this group where they say they share little in common with either. The gender, RFK does take more females than males. Just remember, though, Florida still is like more female than the nation overall. There is some younger votes there, about 18%. Is 18 to 29, but here we go. So this is all of Robert Kennedy's vote. He does take some decent African American vote share here, but 61% of Robert Kennedy's vote is white. About 17% is African American. Only 11% of his vote is Hispanic, Latino. 6% is some other race or ethnicity. American Indian, Alaskan Native was 3. Asian was 2. You're talking about tiny little shares, tiny little things. So you got to be careful and take it with a grain of salt. But you can see that it is far less Hispanic than the state overall. And Cuban, Puerto Ricans are even. Here we go. High school, he is taking 34% with a bachelor's degree, but some college or an associate's degree is 32. Almost a third of Robert Kennedy's vote is also some college or an associate degree. And then high school GED equivalent is another quarter of his vote. Only 8% who have a postgrad. That's it. Of all of Kennedy's voters, only 8% of them have a postgraduate degree. That's all. If we checked Trump by education, you would see that Trump actually even probably does better than that. Pre-high or secondary is 1%. I'm curious. Let's look at Trump's. Ooh, I went too far. Where are you? Where are you? Yeah, even Trump gets a higher share of the post-grad degree than that. For crying out loud, at least he's not in single digits. Some college is Trump's biggest share, followed by high school, GED equivalent, then bachelor. And that's with Kennedy in the race, by the way. If we did just Biden versus Trump, he's going to do better than that. And if you look at Biden's, it's going to look nothing like Kennedy's. Watch. Education is a big deal. It's probably one of the more illuminating demographics to look at when you're trying to see who's got what as far as their vote. See, Joe Biden, almost 1 in 5 of his vote has a postgraduate degree. 31% has some college or an associate degree. Bachelor's is 30.4, and then high school is 1 in 5. So Kennedy's vote looks much more like a Trump vote, even though Trump does better with those who have a postgrad, or not better, I would say more of his vote are people who have an advanced degree. But Kennedy's coalition looks more like Trump's by education than it does Biden's. And Kennedy is not pulling, a ton of woke whites. They just think about it. Think about it, guys. Why would you even expect that to be the case? Because he ran as a Democrat for the primary? Yeah. I mean, that's terrible. What was your what you got a fight in the Twitter comment section? Don't fight. Um what was the original question? Magoose, I'll chime in here. What was the original question about RFK? Kennedy's Super Bowl ad was good, but then what happened during, and while I wait for somebody to answer that, I'll speak to this, Jonathan. Kennedy's Super Bowl ad was good, but who did that appeal to? Did that appeal to, like, do white, woke, suburban educated voters, are they like, is that a group of people where there's a ton of nostalgia for JFK? I don't think so. And Larry Sabato, I know he kissed JFK's ass, but oh no, and I'm just curious as to what the question was that got everybody, debating it. It's not that I don't mean to like pull, yeah, that's cool, but I'm legitimately, curious. Well, Lamp, I'm telling you, the data is the data. I love Barnes. He could be super protective of RFK all he wants, but the question of whether RFK hurts Biden or Trump more is a lot more complicated than a national poll seems to suggest. And I think in states like Minnesota, that hurts Biden more. Why? Well, because there are ancestral Democratic voting groups in rural places and suburban places that don't have college degrees. Maybe they're not ready to vote for Trump yet, or any Republican for that matter, but taking away their votes from Biden would help the Republican nominee. So I think in an area like that, Minnesota's a complicated state. If you're, in the book club on Sundays, you know what I'm probably going to say. Ethnicity wise, it's very different. RFK could do well with like some of those Scandinavian groups that are still reluctantly but stubbornly Democrat, even if they don't have an education. Finns, Swedes, right? Whereas Norwegians are and Germans are out of Scandinavian, but they're kind of not. They're Teutonic, right? But Norwegians, Germans, much more Trumpy. So RFK taking away those votes in a state like that certainly going to help Trump. But if you look at a state like Pennsylvania, I think it's pretty clear by now. I think that RFK hurts Trump in Pennsylvania. I'm not sure how it's going to play out in Michigan. I think it depends on who gets on the ballot there. Michigan is easier to get ballot access than Pennsylvania is. I think in Wisconsin, it's up in the air still. But I think Pennsylvania, to me, pretty clear. He's not taking votes away from white voters in Delco, southeastern Pennsylvania. He's not doing it. He's taking working class voters away from Trump in areas, and he's going to need it. I would expect, and I know I can see it in our polling, northeastern working class Democrats have swung over to Trump in recent years. RFK will probably peel off some of them. Yeah, I'm telling you. In Michigan, it may be closer than the Pennsylvania scenario than it is the Minnesota one. It's a Great Lakes state for sure, and ethnicities are somewhat in the middle. Yeah, I'm telling. And in Florida, at least if it was just Kennedy, I think it's very clear that he hurts Trump. However, when it's everybody, it doesn't matter. Which brings me to, let's look at the white vote, for instance. Let's look at how the white vote moves when we're looking at different scenarios, different possible scenarios. And actually, you know what? let's be before we get into the rest of race. It's 1:36. I did want to get to party and just show you, or even 2020 vote, for instance. I voted in 2020, or not even that. Forget that. Thinking back to 2020, who did you vote for? Let's look at Trump voters from 2020. Okay, let's go up and let's go through the different scenarios. So those are leaners. So Biden is winning 1.8% of Trump's vote. That's it from 2020. That's all. 3 times as many are undecided, but Trump is in the 90s with his 2020 vote share. Now let's look at Biden, because this is what matters. Biden is only at 81.8, and Trump is winning more than 4 times the number of vote switchers that Joe Biden is winning. And by the way, it's more significant than that, because 1.8% is barely statistically significant with a sample size this big. Barely. If it even will be, we'll see. We'll see what the other, there's, like I said, there's a couple hundred more oversampled interviews, but they're going to be weighted down anyway for the overall state. So that may not impact it as much as I think. I'll have to do the math and find out for sure. But you're talking about a very, very, very potentially statistically insignificant percentage of voters who said that they voted for Trump in 20, but will now vote for Joe Biden. The number that's voting for Donald Trump, who voted for Biden in 2020, is going to be way outside the sampling error. Way outside. And it's more than 4 times the number of Biden's crossover vote. That's huge. Now, Biden's going to win those leaners, of course. But the mere fact that Trump is still taking 17% of them means, Trump's probably going to take, let's see, how many was undecided? So that'd be like 1 in 5. Trump is going to take about 10% of Joe Biden's 2020 vote. And Biden is taking less than 2 of Trump's. Big. It's big, folks. It's big. I can actually give you, if you give me 2 seconds, let's actually do that. Let's do the whole state here. Joe Biden, I can give you Trump's taking already. Hold on, where's my little thing? Hold on 1 second. Yeah, I can already give you in my head how many votes that is for Donald Trump. Talking about net vote swing. All right. So Biden got 5,297,045 votes. So you're basically talking about a net swing of almost 5.3 million people who now say that they're going to vote. They voted for Biden, but they're going to vote for Donald Trump in 2024. I'm going to get you that exact amount. Yep. All right. That exact amount is, not 5 million, 500,000 and change. Watch. That's a lot of votes. 529,705 votes. All right. Bear with me. And then 2% of Trump's. Hold on. Let me just put this in somewhere. Keep it handy. Okay. So let me just turn that into a 1 because we'll round to the nearest vote. All right. And now let's call it, let's look at the leaners. We'll have to see how many lean from Trump. Bear with me, guys. Bear with me. This is big deal. This is interesting. 1.8, and then Biden gets another 32% of that undecided. So that would be 3.8. Let's call it. What was it? What did I just say? 3. Let's give him. Let's be fair, because Trump got more of the vote. So that means Biden's going to get, a little bit. 5, 6, 8. And how many more? 731. All right, so that's 21,000 votes. 15. Okay. So it's a net vote shift of 315,000 more votes to Trump just on that alone if nobody else voted. If nobody new voted, that's what it would be. Unfortunately for Joe Biden, there's been a lot of change from 20 to 24. And about could be more than 10% of the we're going to have it at probably around 9 or 10 percent new electorate, which is an electorate that's big for Trump. It's a big margin. So yeah, I mean, what else? It's 140. I'm trying to think here. Crossover is huge for Trump, if I remember correctly, or at least it's bigger if you're a Democrat. Let's do that. If you are a Democrat, 11% of the Democratic Party is going to Donald Trump. The leaners go to Joe Biden, of course, but he still wins about a quarter of the leaners. So it's like a 13% crossover vote for Trump. And Trump lost about 9% or 10% of Republicans in 2020. He's only losing 6% now, with the leaners going to Trump overwhelmingly too. So that 40% of that undecided. Is it 40? Yeah. 40% of that undecided would be about, let's see, 6. That'd be 3%. So about another 2%. So he'd lose so Trump's losing like 7% of the Republican vote, which is a normal crossover vote. Biden is losing double digits, almost 13%. So I mean, it's almost a 2-to-1 crossover margin. It's bad. If you look at what happened in 2020, and Trump still obviously won the state pretty handily. No, it was about 7. Sorry. But Trump only won 5% of Democrats. And then independents went for Biden 54 to 43. Let's look at the independent someone else vote now. And big undecided vote. But Trump wins the. Oh, let's do that. 385. 160 plus 50, that's 210. So Trump is winning 54.54 of the, actually it's 55, so it would round up to 54.6. 54.6. Well, let me do it 55.45. Let me do it in thirds like that, and then we'll see what Biden's comes to. And Biden had 126 plus 49. So that would be 175. 45.454. So after winning independence in 2020, 54 to 43, independents have almost completely reversed, and Trump is now carrying them 54.545 to 45.454. And by the way, Republicans, Florida was R+8 in 2020. It was only R+3, I think, in 2021, in 2016. No, it was R+1. That's it. 34% were independents, which Trump won 47 to 43. They both, him and Clinton, both lost 8% of their base to each other. So that's interesting. Trump lost 1% to Johnson and 1% to Stein, 1% to other. And Hillary lost nothing to Johnson, 1 to Stein, and yet he was still able to hold the line. Independents, again, went 47-43 for Trump, 5% went to Johnson, 2% went to Stein, 3% went to some other candidate. The fact that Trump is that far above 50 with independents is a big deal. It's a big deal. Yeah, I mean, huge. Because those are people who legitimately change their mind, Of course, It's also the addition of new people. Look, how many times have we said it and talked about it? Things change at coalitions change, but also populations change, demographics change. And Florida got another electoral vote for a reason. Um, it's growing. It's growing. Even though Miami-Dade did shrink, it did. It's still growing. So if you were, when we put this out, because 3146, I see how this is going here. When we put this out, just remember that the Orlando Central Atlantic area and the northern part of the state, which will include the Panhandle, the Big Bend, and North Central Florida, and part of the North Atlantic, they will both have higher shares, slightly higher shares of the vote than is usual. Miami-Dade's going to have a little less. Or not Miami-Dade, but Miami and the Gold Coast altogether will have a little bit less because I think they're around 22. There was some population loss there, but that's not the reason. It still probably would be a quarter of the vote easy. It just looks like that's the case, but the real loss came from the Gulf. Part of it is reallocating Monroe to the Gold Coast area, the Miami metropolitan area, and the Gold Coast, and the other part is simply that they didn't get the same boon that some of the Tampa areas got, and we're even limiting our definition of the Tampa area. So there are, I hate to say it, but Wikipedia is actually pretty damn good at this. They are of showing you how the regions work itself out. Tampa could be a lot bigger of a definition. It could be citrus. What else? I mean, it's just a ton of other counties there that other people, we did include in Hernando, but it could include Manatee. Some people have Sarasota in there. Sarasota for us is the Gulf Coast, though. I just don't see how in 24 the Gulf Coast is going to put up 20%. I just don't see it. There's too much growth in the Orlando and Space Coast and Treasure Coast areas. There's too much growth there. And Miami slowed the last couple of years, but will it continue to? We'll see. That'll be something we'll have to keep an eye on. But at least our research is showing that is happening. And what used to be not a destination spot, unless you're going to spring break, it's not like a relocation spot. The North and the Panhandle, Big Bend, it is getting a boom. So Duval County has grown considerably, and that's part of obviously part of our northern definition. Even parts of Flagler have seen growth, and you could see it if you take a couple of minutes just to look up some of those areas. You will see that. So it's pretty impressive. It's pretty impressive. Things always, they never stay the same, I guess is my point. Let me show you that Tampa definition real quick, because somebody specifically on Locals asked me about Tampa. The dark red is our definition of the Tampa area. The surrounding counties that are in pink are counties that some people do. To the south of Hillsborough immediately is Manatee, and to the south of Manatee is Sarasota. Those are the two light pink counties. To the big one to the east of Hillsborough is Polk. Polk we have in our Gulf Coast mid-Florida definition, which, by the way, in 2020, Trump won 60-39. He did. One of the biggest swings is actually in the Orlando Central Atlantic area, and Tampa. It's just huge swing in Tampa. I think even Hillsborough is going to go. I don't think Biden will hold on even to Hillsborough. He lost it. He won it by about 7 points, I believe. Let me look. 52.86 to 45.98. So about 7 points. Right? Yeah, something like that. I just don't see how Joe Biden would hold it with this kind of movement. Trump is just doing too well with some of those younger minority groups that used to be reliably, it's like if they're not older, 6.88. If they're not older, their loyalties to the Democratic Party are very, very weak. And that's an issue, that's really an issue for Biden. And I don't know how much of an issue it's going to be for Democrats down ballot because, again, Trump is doing, we were just looking at it, Trump is doing significantly, it's not just his vote share, or not just his margin, but it's his vote share outpacing some of these people, generics and named people down ballot, significantly. For instance, when we look at those independents alone, which is if we look at the, because we do have a couple of minutes, independence, inflation is their number one issue. Immigration is a very, very close number 3. The economy and jobs is number 2. But I'll tell you, they're one interview separated. That's it. Abortion is way behind in number 5. So they're kind of like, Republican thought of issues. By the way, 86% of the non-two-party identification is what they would call independent. Another 14.5%. So 14.5 is like a third party out of that subgroup. And they're moderate. 64% overall moderate, 22% conservative, only 14% liberal. But because of how moderate they are, you would think they would do significantly better. I'm talking about Democrats overall. They do slightly lean Republican, but not by much. When you ask them to lean, 27% will lean toward the Republican Party. I share more in common with the Republican Party. About 25% said that of the Democratic Party, but that's actually slightly less than share little in common with either, which is like a true independent. That's about as many as who said that they lean to the Republicans. So equally aligned, which is sometimes also considered a true independent. There's good reason to have debate over that. That's about 21%. 52% female, 48% male. Very close, very, very close. As far as what age are they? 6.2%, 18 to 24. 6.8%, 25 to 29. 16.6%, 30 to 39. 19%, 40 to 40. This is almost identical to what the state is. So very remarkable. 10% Hispanic, 13% black, a little bit whiter. When you look at, because Cubans lean Republican, they identify as Republican more. So Puerto Ricans are definitely more of the independent vote than Cubans are. They're actually slightly more educated, advanced degrees than the overall state, 16%. High school, 21. That's almost dead on. Bachelor's, 28, a little bit more educated. Some college or associate, 33. But they're suffering. Like 10% have been relegated to part-time work. Another 10% have been laid off and have quit work looking for work. About a quarter of them are retired. That would help Republicans for sure. It is Florida. Only a few, 2.3, despite how young it is, only 2% are students. And that's really what it's coming down to. It really is. They're independents who are living in the economy more than other people their age group. What else? No religious affiliation is the highest. Catholic is number 2. Christian, which is like Baptist, Lutheran, Episcopalian, Methodist, Adventist, Presbyterian, about 20%. Protestants, 17. Protestants, very obviously, in most places, Republican demographic. They're definitely more in the burbs. 6% in the Panhandle, a little over 1% in Big Bend. North Central Florida, 16%. Orlando, the Atlantic Coast, 25%. Tampa Bay Area, 17%. The Southwest and the Gulf or Mid-Florida. We're just going to probably wind up calling Gulf Mid-Florida. I don't know. The Gulf Coast Mid-Florida. That's probably what we're going to wind up calling it. 14% in the Miami Gold Coast, 20% of them are in the Miami Gold Coast area. Oh, God, I thought you were seeing this. I'm over here scrolling through and you're still looking at that map. Sorry. It's been a long, and I'm also thinking about all the things we got going on tomorrow. Let's see if I can. There you go. You can see the independents where they are right now. Let's see if I can get you. We'll have the poll closure times posted. It's going to be a bit of a late night. I think we are going to start around 7 p.m. though, because Georgia will be quick, so maybe 15, 20 minutes after the polls close in Georgia, we expect to have results. So they close at 7. Mississippi closes an hour later. Washington State is 11 p.m. And this, of course, all of this is Eastern Standard Time. So 7 Eastern Standard Time for Georgia, 8 Eastern Standard Time for Mississippi, and 11 Eastern Standard Time for Washington. Hawaii, I'll tell you what, after Alaska did what they did to us, I think we'll be waiting on that, guys. We'll be back Wednesday on Inside the Numbers with those results. Should be a fun night. It's a mini Super Tuesday. And like I said, one that we expect will be the end of it. I love Good Logic. What's going on? I love him. He usually comes up when he has time. It's just that our shows can cross over sometimes. So he's talking about Joe Neerman, for those who don't know. Joe's a good guy. We said you got to school him on polling. Joe, you listening, Joe? You got to come on, Joe. It's been too long, brother. Yep. And Jonathan, you seem to agree with me on that. That's what I'm saying. How could you be under 50 in Vermont where they're listen, if you're looking on the Secretary of State page, it's wrong. I'm just warning you, okay? It is not correct. There's something going on. I can't remember what in the hell was going on, but there were issues with that. What else? There's some it's maybe not going to happen now, but soon there will be issues with you should be redirected, but we did some tests and there were some issues, so we'll just have to see how it goes. But we are changing how the link should stay the same, but I don't want to get too much in the weeds, but when you change permalinks on a website, it can sometimes confuse your browser. So I'll have to make an announcement with that. It's just currently, for those who are goofball nerds like me, it's currently set up as our results pages are all as a page post type. The problem with that is Google doesn't really like that. Other search engines don't like that. So, not that I really care about what they think, but it is the better way to structure the site. And because we're doing so many results, when we change that, I'm going to change the post type. And that's going to throw some stuff off for a little bit. So, if you have some issues, we'll figure it out. You'll have to purge your cache, purge your browser cache, stuff like that. Let me just check somebody is saying about Vermont. Because I'm telling you, the Secretary of State website was messed up. Yeah, we still have Haley at 50.2, unless they haven't updated. But the AP does too. So unless it's like was there some thing for the New York Times? I'm going on Timcast soon. I think the 29th of March. It was supposed to be the 16th, but because we had some more, or the 19th, but because we had the Arizona Prime, I'm still covering it. Arizona, Florida, Illinois, Kansas, and Ohio are all on March 19th. Yes, we'll know by then that that things, he will have clinched the nomination, so we'll have Joe Biden. But we're still going to cover them. We want to see vote patterns. We want to see vote totals. We want to check this out. That's why I didn't poll the primary in Florida. There was really no point. It's winner take all. If it was winner, and it's winner take all with a plurality, by the way. If it was not, and there may be some confusion over delegate allocation, I would have done it. But other than that, it was kind of pointless to do it. All right. So with that in mind, with that, yeah, and I know I'm looking at if like the AP NBC News has her down, maybe there will be an update, Matthew. I'll check it out. I'll keep my eye on it. It's because it looks like my votes haven't changed. So maybe the AP will update theirs as well, or have, and the decision desk will change theirs as well. But as of right now, we still have her slightly above in Vermont. The Secretary of State has her below too. The disparity is in that those lower, like the people who had dropped out and suspended their campaigns. That's where the disparity is from. And Burlington was still pretending like they still had votes as if they weren't, ever going to be able to hold them. All right, let me go and boogie. I got some stuff to do, and then we'll drop Florida. We'll drop that poll. You guys will see what it is weighted. I'm just going to warn you, it's a big Trump lead. The maps are going to be cool though, and we'll put them out with the maps and let people go through them, and they can see regionally and where all over the map he is just doing considerably stronger than he did in 2020. And even in 2020, it was a strong performance for a Republican presidential candidate. I strongly suspect that's why you are not seeing Joe Biden do anything in this state. They pulled it already, I am sure, and they are not going to waste a dollar in this state to win or even compete in Florida, because it is hopeless for Joe Biden at this point. I'm serious. I'm going to use the word hopeless for Joe Biden in Florida. It's bad. Sampling errors for subgroups are higher. But damn, folks, not like this. Damn. All right. Don't forget, if you like the videos, don't forget to like them and share them far and wide. Subscribe, of course, whether you're on Locals or you're on Rumble. And by the way, you should cross on over to the other one and subscribe there too. But the best place to follow us, the best place to watch us, the best place to support us is on Locals. peoplespundit.locals.com. All right, I'm out of here. I'm going to poll. I'll see you guys in a little bit. Don't do anything stupid. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. And of course, tomorrow, let's call it 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Number love for you guys. Deuces.